Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're doing something a little bit different than what we've done before on the channel, and I'm going to be doing a re-ranking of the MCU. Now, I'm saying re-ranking because I do have a list on my Letterboxd already that is just my MCU ranking. I also have like an MCU multiverse ranking that's probably super messy because I just got to add films and then never look at it, never update it. And that's kind of the point of this video too, is because I do that with my MCU ranking as it is. I just kind of I watch it, I throw it in there, and then I never revisit it. So I'm interested to see now that I've rewatched the entire MCU. A couple months ago was in my themed Letterboxd 4 series was superhero films was the genre, and so I rewatched the entire MCU that month. And so I've been interested in doing this video where I haven't looked at that ranking. The last time I looked at it was when I put in Fantastic Four, and again, like I said, the extent of me looking at that ranking is there's a new movie that comes in, I look kind of like around the general area where I think it's going to go, and then I plop it in, right? And then that's it. And so I'm kind of interested to see now that on a re-ranking, because my opinions definitely have changed on some films. Some are higher than I remember them, some were worse than I remember them being. And so I'm excited to just kind of re-rank this and just see how this goes. Also, just a heads up, I'm going to talk a little bit more here in the introduction. So there is the timestamps on this if you want to just jump straight in. It'll show you where the rankings start. Because I do kind of want to just talk about real quick a little bit longer of an introduction, but I do want to just talk about my history with the MCU. I've talked about it multiple times on my channel, but obviously if this is the first MCU film, or first MCU video on my channel you're seeing, then obviously you haven't heard it. But my whole thing with the MCU was I hated like superhero movies and like action movies just in general. For a while growing up, it wasn't really my particular favorite genre of film, and so I just kind of just thought the MCU, I was one of those guys that just thought the MCU was dumb and it just wasn't for me, and I wasn't really ever interested. I saw a couple of the films here and there. I saw like the Guardians of the Galaxies, I saw the original Avengers, never saw anything leading up to the Avengers, and then like I saw trying to think of like before, and I guess Ant-Man. That was probably about it. I'd seen both Guardians, Ant-Man, I guess the first two Ant-Man, first two Guardians, Avengers. I'm probably forgetting something. We'll when we're talking about it, I'll mention if it's one that I actually had seen before or not. But I just really hadn't seen anything until it was about a month or so, maybe a couple months before Endgame came out, that I really just saw it and I decided to lock in, and I was like, okay, I'm going to watch the entire MCU and then go experience Endgame with everyone in theaters, because there was all the stories about how much money it was already making in pre-sales and all this stuff, and I was like, this feels like an event, I need to be a part of this. And so I watched the entire MCU, loved a lot of it. There was a lot of it on my first watch where I was definitely kind of a little bit more cynical and just kind of just like not having fun, especially phase one. I wasn't really bought in, and then the MCU kind of hits a stride where all of a sudden you're like, oh no, this is a whole lot of fun. So it's going to be interesting to see what films on my first watch I didn't like as much, and now here on what is basically my second watch for a whole lot of the early films in the MCU, I'm just really excited to see where this all goes. And so let's get into this. So yeah, pretty much every film here I've now seen at least twice. The three newest, the three from this year, I've still only seen them all once a piece. Or no, yeah, I've only seen them all once a piece. I've seen bits of Thunderbolts a second time, but just once a piece on all of them, and basically two watches on on like the early MCU stuff, and then there's going to be a couple films where it's like 6, 7, 8 watches. So we'll see where that goes. So okay, so we're just going to start in order. So we've got Iron Man, and you might see me kind of looking over to the side. I've got the cheat sheet here, so I know exactly what I'm looking for each time. So Iron Man, on my first watch, I think I had it, and I've updated my rankings on all of these. So we're gonna leave it. So it was a 3.5 on first watch. I bumped it up to a 4. I enjoyed it. It was one of those when I wasn't being as like, again, the younger me was just kind of very like, oh, these are all just stupid, and I just wasn't having fun. And I started having a whole lot more fun on the second watch. So Iron Man currently in first place, and then we do have the Incredible Hulk. The real test is going to be to see if I can spell all of these. Okay, so we've got the Incredible Hulk. Originally, I had this at a 1.5. I did just bump it up to a 2-star. I liked it a lot. It's funny. I liked it a lot more on this second watch all these years later, but I only gave it like a half-star boost because it's still not great, but it wasn't like. I remember going into this. expecting it to just be like the worst thing ever, and I was like, it's not good, but I'm like, it wasn't as bad. So it's still in order here, and then we're gonna have a little bit of a difference here. We've got Iron Man 2. Now Iron Man 2 is gonna jump ahead of the Incredible Hulk. Iron Man 2. The interesting thing here is like early phase 1, if it's not like a pillar, if it's not Iron Man, like if it's not like the introduction film to the character, I kind of just like they blend together and I kind of get like lost in them. Iron Man 2, it is the introduction, which is where we get Black Widow, it's where you get War Machine, like it's kind of introducing some more things, but I just wasn't like a big fan of Tony particularly in this. And obviously I think that's a big part of like what makes Tony Stark and makes Iron Man work throughout the rest of the MCUs. You kind of have to establish him a little bit here in Iron Man 2, but just wasn't, for me, it just didn't, even on a rewatch, it wasn't all that fun. So we're going Iron Man 2 there, and then we've got the first Thor, and I really liked the first Thor on first watch. It's okay, like, on a second watch, it is like the quintessential, just like establishing, like, superhero origin film. And I think it works really well, but there's not a whole lot of they try with Darcy and Jane and Stellan Skarsgård's character. I'm drawing a blank on his name off the top of my head. I shouldn't be drawing a blank on his name. He's an important character. But Peter, I think that's his first name, but I can't think of what his last name is. But they try and implement a little bit of fun in there, but it still just isn't as fun. I don't think like as Iron Man, but it's just like kind of middle of the road. It's a very good, establishing superhero origin story. And so far there hasn't been a lot of debate really. So far all of the ratings are different, and so there hasn't been a lot. So here we're gonna put in Captain America: The First Avenger, and I did know that this was gonna happen. And we're going to see, it's going to be interesting because my original list, at the end when we're going to compare the two lists, you're going to see on my original list, there's going to be a lot of things where some films that are like a 3-star are higher than a 3.5, or a film that's like a 3 might also be like lower than some like 2.5. So like, it's going to be weird. I'm going to try and stay pretty true to just kind of the star rating, kind of grouping them all together, because I think that's going to be the easiest way to, visualize it and it makes sense. So really what this is just coming down to whether I liked the first Avenger more or less than Thor. I think the consensus is probably that people like it more than Thor, but I liked the original Thor. Obviously I liked the first Avenger too. Like a 3 is just a nice, don't necessarily love it, but it's a fun film. So I think I'm going to go Thor, then we're going to go Captain America. Finally we'll have a little bit of a discussion there, and then we're jumping into the Avengers. And I gave the Avengers 4 stars. That was my rating when I saw it like in the theaters in 2012, and I've just like left it as like an even 4-star. Like it's fun, but and I get that there's a lot of people that like this is like top 5 in the MCU for them. It's good, and I expect it to stay or probably in my top 10. But I just don't love it that much. I will say I do like it more than Iron Man. I think it's my favorite of Phase 1. And that is the end of Phase 1 right there. So technically, that's my Phase 1 ranking. So yeah, we'll have the Avengers on top. Then we start Phase 2 off with Iron Man 3. And this is kind of the same thing. With Iron Man 2, it all just kind of blends together a little bit. I will say I think I liked it a little bit more on a second watch. I think initially I had both of these rated as like a 2 or a 2.5. So it is up a little bit. But I think we're going to put it right here. We're going to put it above Iron Man 2, below Captain America, the First Avenger. Does that feel right? Yeah, I think that feels right. So that's where we're going to put Iron Man 3. Moving on, Thor: The Dark World. Thor: The Dark World. And we're going to go ahead and leave that right there at the bottom. We'll see. I think it might stay. And again, I don't remember my old list exactly. That's why I'm excited to like look at it at the end. I think what I do remember is Thor: The Dark World being at the bottom of that list, and it's going to be at the bottom of this list too, most likely. So that's where we're putting Thor: The Dark World. And then we've got maybe my favorite like jump up film The Winter Soldier. I think I gave this maybe a 3 on my first watch because I remember, again, this was years ago, and I remember watching it and thinking this is fun, but like I'm watching a superhero universe. I want to see superheroes doing, like I want to see flying and doing all this, and I'm like, I don't want this like spy espionage type movie. And then, and so I think I was very harsh and just dumb and cynical the first time I watched it. And on this one, this rewatch, holy cow! I see what like everyone saw. I see what everyone saw in the Winter Soldier. I had a blast with this, and as a matter of fact, we are just going to go ahead and slide that all the way up top. We're going to put it above the Avengers. Because, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the Winter Soldier a whole lot more than... Because, again, I just remember not hating it, but just, like, being like... It just didn't feel like what I signed up for initially, but it really just on this rewatch... I think I kind of was, like, going into it a little bit more clean slate, didn't really care. I was just excited to rewatch all these films, because the first time seeing them in 6 years, and so... I didn't have any preconceived ideas of biases or anything, and so I just had a whole lot more fun with it. And then we have Guardians of the Galaxy, and Winter Soldier's reign up top was definitely short-lived. Guardians all the way up top. You're gonna see there's not a whole lot of. I think there's only one film in the MCU that I gave a 5-star rating to, so 4.5 is like as good as it gets as far as the MCU, and so Guardians, I feel very confident is going to stay as a top five film. Then we have Age of Ultron. This is another one that I definitely did not like the first time. I liked it more on this second watch, but still not the best. So let's see, it goes above Iron Man 2. I think it goes above Iron Man 3. Do I like it more than Captain America, the First Avenger, and Thor? I think I do, actually. And this is surprising. Age of Ultron is way higher than, already higher than I think where it is on my original ranking. Yeah, because I think the reason I'm going to give it the edge over Thor and the First Avenger is because Avengers Age of Ultron, it's one of those films that I think is like, it's aging better, like as the years go by, because I think there is always all of these posts you'll see on Twitter, people talking about how like Age of Ultron was the last time that you see, I don't maybe I'm misremembering exactly, but it's like it's the last time that you see like the whole Avengers team together. I think it's the last time you see like the Hulk transition like from Banner into the Hulk. I think you get a reverse transition maybe later in Ragnarok, but it's kind of the last time for a lot of kind of the things that were like great about the first Avengers that kind of carry into this, and then from Age of Ultron on, because there's just so many characters from this point on, the Age of Ultron kind of feels like it's the last time that you get that chemistry with like the core Avengers group. There's only a couple new people kind of sprinkling in here and there before it gets crazy, and so I think for that reason, I think Ultron is probably going to sit right there for now. Yeah, it seems high, but yeah, I think I like it more than the establishing origin stories for Thor and Captain America. So that's where we're going to put it. And then we have Ant-Man, and this is like, to me, is the definition of like a 3.5-star film. Like, fun, good time. It's not a great film, but it's like fun, So we're gonna put it up there. We're gonna put it above Ultron and then below Iron Man. It's one of the films that interest me in terms of like seeing a Marvel movie before before getting into the MCU. Because I'll tell you, before Endgame, the only Marvel movies, again, it was Guardians, it was Ant-Man, it was Deadpool. In terms of like from like 2010s, like in that era, and I didn't even realize Deadpool wasn't MCU. Like, that's how little I knew about the MCU at that point. But I watched those three because they were comedies, and it was like, I'm like, I can watch a superhero film that is also a comedy. Like, that feels like something I can do. So yeah, we're gonna put Ant-Man there, and then that is the end of Phase 2. So there's my rankings of Phase 1, Phase 2. Here we come into Phase 3. This is the biggest chunk of films, and this is where this ranking is going to start getting a whole lot harder. Okay, so we're starting off with Civil War. Not Alex Garland's Civil War. I probably need to type in Captain America Civil War. This is another one. I didn't love Civil War on the first watch. I liked it more now. I think I like it more now when I have a bigger picture of like the entirety, like if, even past Civil War. Like as future films come out, it kind of like you go back and Civil War just feels like a pillar. It feels like, you know, it's my dad he doesn't even call it Captain America Civil War. He calls it Avengers 2.5. It feels like such a pillar in the MCU in this moment. So it's gonna go up here. Okay. This is interesting. I think I like it more than Iron Man, but not more than the Avengers. So I think that's where we're going to put it. We're going to go Avengers, Civil War. So Civil War. So my Captain America ranking goes Winter Soldier, Civil War, and then OG. Yeah, Civil War. It is great, but it doesn't quite capture me the way that, again, on this rewatch, Winter Soldier really, was so fun to me, to the point that I think on future rewatches of Winter Soldier that might get bumped up to a 4.5. Like that, I had so much fun. A 4 feels like kind of the max of like about where I view Captain America Civil War. It is very interesting. It's intriguing of a film that is kind of just our heroes against each other. So I do love the kind of the concept of it. But yeah, it's just not for me. A lot of people I've seen a lot of people this is one of the 5 stars MCU movies for a lot of people. I didn't quite love it to that much, but I liked it a whole lot more on these rewatches. And then we've got Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange. So yeah, I've got this at a 3.5. Okay, let's bring it immediately up. I think I like Ant-Man. I think I like Ant-Man more than Doctor Strange. I really love Ant-Man. Not as much as one of my friends. He is the bigger Ant-Man fan, but I still do really enjoy Ant-Man. So I think that's where we're putting Doctor Strange. Again, I didn't see Doctor... I will say that I wasn't going to actually, this is around 2016. This is when I was starting to kind of get into movies a little bit more. So I remember seeing Doctor Strange, the trailer for it, a lot. And I remember thinking that the trailer looked so cool that I was gonna break my no MCU rule to go see it. But I ultimately didn't in theaters, and I kind of wish I did, because the first one, I think, having seen that on the big screen, I think a lot of the visuals would have popped out a whole lot more. It would have been a lot better of a viewing experience. But we're going to put Doctor Strange right there. Next is Guardians Volume 2. And this is so tricky. And I think my hot take... do I like it more than the original? It's so close for me. I love Guardians 2. The ending is so emotional for me. Guardians 2 feels so close to a perfect movie. But do I like it more than the original Guardians? I think I do. I'm curious to see how I have it ranked in my original ranking. And I'll also say, kind of giving you a little tease for what's coming out, a video that's going to be coming out next month is going to involve ranking these 2 films. And I'm already, I can't decide how I'm going to rank that video. I don't know how I'm going to rank it, because I'm I can't decide right now. And I guess essentially whatever I decide here is probably me establishing what I'm deciding in that. I think I'm going to be contrarian. I'm going to be different, because I know a lot of people, Volume 2 is their least favorite of the trilogy. I'm going to give it its flowers. I'm going to put it here. And I think it's more fun at the end when you look at a rankings list. It would be boring if I just did the consensus with what everyone else thinks. And so I think I'm going to put Guardians 2 here at the top, and then above the original Guardians. This is also kind of a crazy preview for what I think of, like this trilogy in the MCU. The fact that right now they're my 1 and 2 in my rankings, but that won't last forever. We've got Homecoming next. Spider-Man. Homecoming. Okay. So Homecoming. Now, you probably have heard me a couple times on the channel talk about how Spider-Man is my superhero. It's my favorite superhero. It was basically the only superhero movie like that and Fantastic Four were like the 2 superhero movies I watched as a kid. So I love Spider-Man as a character. I didn't see Homecoming, and when it came out in theaters, I remember wanting to go, but this was one of the first casualties, and maybe one of the first times where I kind of thought about I should start watching the MCU, because I didn't want to go see it because I knew how heavily Iron Man was in the movie, and I was like, I haven't seen anything with Iron Man since the original Avengers, and so I'm like, I don't know. So I remember intentionally not going and seeing Homecoming in theaters because I was like, I'm not going to know the story. I'm not going to know, what's going on, and so I didn't go see it, and I think that's part of the reason I'm a little lower on Homecoming than I feel like a lot of people are. A lot of people love Homecoming, and obviously I like it, 4 stars, but it just never loved it like that. With that said, it is still better than Iron Man, and I'm gonna put it above Civil War. I'm gonna put it above Avengers. And this is maybe the first crazy jump that we're gonna look at when we visit the old list. Is it's jumping above, or it's gonna stay below Winter Soldier. I think Winter Soldier I like better than Homecoming. So we're gonna put that there. Next we've got Ragnarok. This is one that I know is very high up on my original list, and it's still gonna be high up here. It's gonna be lower though eventually because we're putting it below Winter Soldier. We're putting it below Homecoming. I think I'm going to put it below the Avengers. Is it below Civil War? Ooh, that's tricky. I think I like Ragnarok more than Civil War still, so I'm thinking I'm going to leave it there. That feels like a good spot for Ragnarok. And this is kind of in my head, I'm kind of looking at this as around top 10 range, so I'm going to be interested to see what kind of makes that final cut. After Ragnarok is Black Panther, and immediately those are all getting shifted down one. We're going to start Black Panther above Ragnarok, above Avengers. Is it above Homecoming? I think it's above Homecoming. And I feel like that might be a change from the original 2. Winter Soldier is shocking me at how high I think I'm putting it. Do I put Black Panther above Winter Soldier? Yeah, I'm going to put Black Panther above Winter Soldier. I think I like this ranking right here for Black Panther. I thoroughly loved it. This is another one that I thought about seeing in theaters back in 2018. Again, the trailers were super interesting. And again, I think this was another casualty, even though I knew it was the origin story, kind of the origin story. I knew it was the first film of the Black Panther franchise, but I had heard, people had told me that the character had already been introduced in Civil War, or, in other films or whatever. So it's oh, you have to go back and watch this, so you get the introduction to the character and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, to go back to watch that film, I then have to watch these other 8 films before. And so that was the whole thing with the MCU for a while for me, was I just kind of kept putting everything off because I was like, oh, it's too much homework. And even if there was one thing I was kind of interested in, I just didn't want to watch everything to get caught up. But yeah, I did love Black Panther when I saw it for the first time. So we're gonna put Black Panther there. Infinity War is going all the way to the top. And this is one where this is my biggest regret, I feel in terms of my movie watching, is I regret not getting caught up with the MCU prior to this. I should have gotten caught up for Black Panther and then just gone right into Infinity War, because I so badly wish I could have had that reaction in the theater with everyone. I do think ultimately my reaction, or my experience with Infinity War was still interesting, because what I ended up doing the first time was I ended up watching the films not in like chronological order from like when they were released, but in chronological order from like, so I started with Captain Marvel, then watched first Avenger, Captain America. Like I went in chronological order, like the actual timeline. And so I did get the experience of, I did watch Avengers Infinity War. I woke up at like 6 in the morning on a Saturday, watched it, and then immediately, as soon as it finished, drove to the theater, and that's when I watched Endgame. So I didn't get the experience of having to wait a year plus like everyone else did, but I had a unique experience of like having to wait 30 minutes and like just feeling like a real continuation of a story. So I think that was a fun way to watch it, but I wish I could have like seen it in theaters and not kind of already had it spoiled and like know what was going to happen. It just would have been a whole lot more fun. But I love Infinity War. We're putting it all the way up the top. And then afterwards, it's Ant-Man and the Wasp. So this was funny because, and this was, I think Ant-Man and the Wasp was the film that made me realize I have to like watch the whole MCU, because and I think that's my review on Letterboxd for Ant-Man and the Wasp, is I said something along the lines of like, this ends my streak of being able to just pick and choose what MCU movies I watch without having to know anything, because the end of the first Ant-Man is him being freed and getting out of jail, and then Ant-Man 2 starts with him in house arrest, and I was genuinely confused. Where are we putting Ant-Man and the Wasp? Is it the top of the 3 stars? Is it better than Ultron? Do I like it better than... I think it's the top of the 3 stars right now. Again, I like the Ant-Man films, I think, more than a lot of people, save for my one friend that absolutely loves Ant-Man. Yeah, I think that's where I'm putting it. That seems crazy, but that's where we're putting it for now. And then we've got Captain Marvel. So this was... because Captain Marvel came out, what was it, like a month or so before Endgame in theaters. And so I saw Captain Marvel in theaters, and then started again my MCU rewatch or first watch, and then watched it in that order, which was weird, but I did it that way because in my head I was like, oh, the MCU, the timeline, there's so many movies that's so scary, I'm not going to be able to like keep track of what's going on where. But like obviously everyone else that watched them in release order was able to keep track. It's not that complicated. I could have kept track, but I still thought it would just be easier to watch it chronologically like that. But yeah, I like Captain Marvel a lot. I like it more than a lot of people. I think I like it more than Doctor Strange, but probably not quite Ant-Man. I really like Ant-Man, but for me, Captain Marvel is like a 3.5, and I'm always kind of just shocked. Obviously, there's a lot of people that, it's just sexist people and stuff like that I'm like, whatever. I can just discredit. If you just hate Brie Larson and so you hate the movie or whatever, I know I can discredit your opinions. But there's a lot of people that do take it seriously, but still just don't like it. And so I think that's kind of interesting that for me, someone who thoroughly enjoyed the film, it's one of those that I have a hard time seeing how people just like hate it, in terms of, again, if they're not just being sexist and it's just like an actual genuine opinion that they just do not like the film. I find it interesting that is something, like, based on my experience with the film when I saw it, I find it interesting that can be an experience that you can have with the film, because I love Captain Marvel, and I think a big part of it is because I love Brie Larson, and I think so much of the controversy or whatever with her performance is like, at no point when I watched that movie did I ever think like she wasn't fit or like not doing a good job. Like, she fits Captain Marvel. It's just I don't know. We're putting it all the way up there, and I think that's maybe going to be my biggest, I guess, maybe other than like Guardians 2 being up there. I think Captain Marvel being pretty high is going to be one of the biggest upsets maybe of the ranking so far. And then we've got Avengers Endgame. Forgot the D. Avengers Endgame. This is one of those I like it slightly more and more with each watch. Originally, I had it like as a 4, so I'm interested to see where it is in my original ranking. Okay, well, we know it's at least here. Is it better than the Guardians? I don't think so. I think I like both Guardians movies more than Endgame. Endgame gets a 4.5 because, again, it's such a pillar moment. It's such a big film in the MCU, and because of when you watch Endgame, a lot of people, Endgame's rankings are a little skewed because so much of it is just built on like, the culmination of everything that's led to this. So I do think I give it that credit, but it's like I think I like Guardians, both of them, just more just as pure films. So we're gonna put Endgame in 4th, which seems kind of crazy. Probably crazy to some because I think for a lot of people it's like number 1 because it's Avengers Endgame. Like this is what it all led to. But I do think I like it a little bit less than those. And then we have Far From Home, and this is the next big upset of the video. So you see it's a 4-star. We're already starting past all of this because I like Far From Home more than Homecoming, which to a lot of people is shocking. And I see Spider-Man Far From Home is like in this, probably like even in this range for a lot of people, like in their rankings that I see. But I like Far From Home. I think I like it more than Winter Soldier. Do I like it more than Black Panther? No, I think I like Black Panther more, so I think that's where it's going to stay. I think there's the Winter Soldier is going to break up my Spider-Man right here. But yeah, I have a whole lot of fun with Far From Home, and I do know that a big criticism of Far From Home is that's now basically the second Spider-Man movie where he's not in New York. He's not home. Obviously, it just doesn't feel like a Spider-Man movie when it's overseas. That didn't really bother me necessarily when I was watching the film. I am excited, and I think I've gotten to the point that I think with Spider-Man 4, with Brand New Day when that comes out, that will irritate me if once we get to the next Spider-Man movies. If now we're still not in New York and he still doesn't have a suit, like the like a sewn together suit, like all of that, like because that's where No Way Home kind of ends off with him kind of just restarting essentially, and it ended up being an origin story trilogy to lead him to where like typical Spider-Man stuff happens. So I didn't mind it, and so I love Far From Home, and I know that that's going to be probably shocking to a lot of people that that's going to be that high up. But that is the end of Phase 3. We then jump into Black Widow, and Black Widow, I remember I liked it in the theater, and then it was kind of a whatever film, seeing it the second time. We're going to put it below Ultron. It's going to be below Thor. It's probably below the first Avenger. I think I'm going to put it there. I think I'm going to put it above Iron Man 3, but below these other origin stories. This would have hit so much harder if it was in the Winter Soldier. Like if they would have just released it around the same time, I think it would have been a lot better received. I'm glad that that Scarlett Johansson and that Black Widow finally got her own film. Obviously, Iron Man 2 is where she was introduced. It's nice that she finally got that own film in the MCU, but again, it did feel a little too late. And then we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and this is one that I liked a ton in theaters the first time I saw it. Didn't like it as much. I think this is maybe my second so I guess I've seen the film probably like 3 times now, maybe 4. I liked it less, definitely, on the second watch. But it's still, I think it's the top of the 3.5s probably. It's better than Ant-Man. But yeah, I had it as like a 4 and just kind of dropped it down to a 3.5. And then we've got Eternals. This is maybe one of my biggest like disappointments in the MCU because I this was coming off of Nomadland, Chloe Zhao. Like this was such a big kind of moment, getting like that type of director into the MCU. I think I like Eternals more than some people, but I should say more than the majority of people, because a lot of people absolutely hate this film. I think it ultimately just kind of suffers from it being a little boring and it just being now especially just so irrelevant, kind of. There's not really the one thing that it seemed like was kind of relevant about it was that the post-credit scenes teasing Blade, but now that feels irrelevant too. The characters they've kind of announced aren't coming back. Like it just feels very on an island and just doesn't fit in with the rest. With that said, I'm gonna put it above Iron Man 3. I think I'm gonna put it above Black Widow, but I can't put it above like the first Avenger and Thor and like the original. But I think that's where we're gonna put Eternals. And then we've got No Way Home. And if you've heard me talk about this film, talked about it in my Finding My Letterboxd 4 episode. It's my favorite MCU film, and this is one of those I will openly admit that it's kind of like the biased nature of me being a big Spider-Man fan, this bringing so many generations of Spider-Man together, and like there's a lot of people that are kind of criticizing the story a little bit. I still think it comes together so well, so I'm putting it all the way up at the top. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. This is going to be interesting on a re-rank, because initially what I want to do is I want to just go to Doctor Strange and then just decide, do I like it more or less than the original. I think I like it more than the original. Do I like it more or less than Captain Marvel? Probably more than Captain Marvel, but not more than Ant-Man. So I think it sits right there, is where we're going to put Multiverse of Madness. Then we got Love and Thunder. Might help if I typed Thor first. This one was crazy to me. I remember not really enjoying it when I watched it in theaters, but I still gave it like a 3, which is crazy. I dropped it to a 2 pretty quickly. It's better than Dark World. I think The Incredible Hulk moved above it. It feels like such a regression from the character. Endgame left us in this interesting spot with Thor, and then this again just feels like such a massive just regression for the character overall. Christian Bale is giving way too good of a performance in this film to just kind of be wasted. A lot of the humor just doesn't work for me. I'm shocked that I gave it like a 3-star on first watch. And I think this is one that I think I don't want to say like I've let my opinion be swayed by everyone else that hated it, because again I didn't like it really in theaters. That's why I was like shocked that I gave it a 3. So yeah, I definitely the fact that it hasn't aged well either. Rewatching it, the screaming goats just. Again, I think I thought that was funnier in theaters. It was killing me on this rewatch. So, yeah, we're dropping Love and Thunder. It's down at the bottom, and that's crazy to me that we've got just the double Thors at the bottom. When I like the original and Ragnarok is so high up, it's just crazy that Thor specifically, as a character, has the widest range of like quality of film. After Love and Thunder is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. This is one that I will also admit that when I saw this in theaters, I was very much, especially the opening of the film, I was so emotional and moved, obviously due to the tribute for Chadwick. And I definitely kind of that all carried the film to, I think I originally had it like as a 4-star film, and it was like a top 10 or pushing top 10 in my MCU ranking. It's not that. On a rewatch, it definitely is a little bit lower. The overall story isn't as great as I remembered it being. I just remember really kind of being in a good space seeing it for the obviously for the first time in theaters, and it isn't necessarily aging as well. It's one of those that I think with whatever happens with the characters that would be returning in Doomsday and then eventually Black Panther 3 whenever that comes out, it's one of those that depending on where that story goes, that maybe my opinion kind of changes on Wakanda Forever, because there's obviously so many necessary changes that had to happen here. I do still like it better than Captain Marvel and Multiverse of Madness. That might be where I leave it, and that looks gross, putting it below Ant-Man, but again, I like Ant-Man, what can I say? Oh, speaking of Ant-Man, I should not have said that. I don't love Ant-Man that much. Quantumania. This is another one I had way higher than I should have on my original first watch. It's going to be below Love and Thunder. I think I'm going to put it there. So Dark World is still my bottom, and then Quantumania. It's just... And it gets worse with everything with Jonathan Majors, but I felt like there was a large segment of people that thought that maybe they weren't going to kill Ant-Man in that movie, but like Jonathan Majors as Kang should have really been a much bigger problem than he was for him. And I think I kind of was like, thought it was almost going to redeem itself a little bit at the end when there was the split second where, oh no, maybe Scott is Ant-Man, he's going to get trapped in the quantum realm and he's going to be stuck here or whatever, and Kang is, there was kind of that thought for me. And then he just kind of pretty easily defeats Kang, gets out, and then I do kind of like the kind of ambiguity of like the end where he's kind of thinking like, oh no, did I do exactly what he wanted to do? Like, did we defeat him? But again, it all kind of feels irrelevant now that the Kang isn't the direction they're going. We'll see maybe in Phase 7 when they kind of reboot because that's been a thing they're talking about, is like rebooting it. If they reboot it and Kang kind of still plays a part and it's still kind of the same storyline in the reboot, we'll see maybe if that can save a bit of this film. But it's just that was the other thing that was really killing me on this rewatch, is I remembered it being bad in the theaters. I didn't remember how bad a lot of the dialogue was in this film. It's not great. And so yeah, we're putting Ant-Man at the bottom. And I think, like I said, I was just talking about how much I liked, the first two Ant-Man. That one just dropping all the way to the bottom is a tough beat. And it kind of joins Thor now in that realm. Like, there's obviously not going to be an Ant-Man 4. Like, that's not getting greenlit. But if it did, like, it would be in the same realm of, like, the Thors, where it's like, oh, this could be anywhere, but most likely would be pretty bad. And then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And this is interesting because I think for a lot of people, Guardians 3 is their favorite. I think it's pretty definitively my least favorite of the trilogy, but it's still obviously really good. So let's start down here. It's better than Iron Man, better than Civil War, better than Ragnarok, better than Avengers, better than Homecoming. Is it better than Winter Soldier? Yes. Oh my gosh. This is so hard. It is so hard ranking 37 individual films. Let's go. Oh my gosh, it goes there. We're looking at 3 top 6 films in the MCU for the Guardians of the Galaxy. There's just so much emotion, and there's so much, like, James Gunn really is, like, he understands comic book movies, I think, better than so many other directors. Like, the way he's able to establish his characters, make you care for every single character. Like, he has the magic touch. And so I think I like all the Guardians that much. So, like I'm saying, it's definitively my, least favorite of the trilogy, and it's still better than pretty much everything outside of its own universe, plus, the Infinity War, Endgame, and No Way Home combo. So Guardians 3, it's way high up, and so Guardians is so clearly my favorite trilogy in the MCU. The only other contender is Spider-Man, but obviously it's a little bit lower on all of these. After that, we've got the Marvels, and I will say that this is the one for me that is pretty disappointing, because I liked Captain Marvel so much. I was pretty disappointed by the Marvels. think I'm going to put it right here. I think it's below Iron Man 2. No, Amon butcher her name, Aman Vellani, is so great in it. I think I'm going to give it that little extra boost. It's going to go above Iron Man 2, but that's kind of where it stops. It's still not great. Then we have Deadpool and Wolverine, and this is another interesting one where, at least for one of my buddies, for sure, he mentioned that this is his favorite Deadpool movie. It's also pretty convincingly my least favorite of the Deadpool movies. I still like it, but I like it more than Iron Man. I like it more than Civil War and Ragnarok, but I think I like it. I think that's where it stops. I think it's below the Avengers. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to put Deadpool and Wolverine. And then we jump into this year's films. We've got Brave New World. One of my biggest disappointments. I thought that a couple of the trailers looked really cool, but wasn't very big fan of this at all. The Incredible Hulk is finding its way, just creeping up. I think Incredible Hulk might have been dead last in my original. It's still bottom 5. It's like it's not great, but it's creeping its way up the list. There's a lot of stinkers coming in below it. And then we've got Thunderbolts. Probably need to type more than just Thunder. Thunderbolts, I really liked. I didn't love it the way a lot of people were like so in love with this film. I didn't get to that level, but I did enjoy it. And now, as a reminder, these are the 3 Brave New World Thunderbolts and then the Fantastic Four that I've only seen these once. So I'm sure on second rewatches they're gonna get moved around in my rankings a little bit. Thunderbolts. Better than Ragnarok, better than Deadpool and Wolverine. This is tricky. I think I'm going to put it here. I think it's better than the Avengers. No, I think this is where it goes. I think it goes below the Avengers. And then this is what's really interesting to me too is the Fantastic Four is the last film number 37 here. My initial instinct, because I have the hardest time, like in my current year ranked list, I have a hard time kind of just deciding between the two. I have to have them pretty close together in my original ranking. I think I'm going to put it like that. I think I like Fantastic Four, at least on first watch I liked it more than Thunderbolts. I think that I could see that flipping, because the Fantastic Four was one of those that was fun, but I didn't know exactly how much like rewatch value it had. I think Thunderbolts is one that could have a lot of rewatch value. So I'm interested to see how those go on a future flip, but that's currently where I think that's it. I think that's what I've got. So let's see. My top 10, my new top 10 is No Way Home, Infinity War, Guardians 2, Guardians, Endgame, Guardians 3, Black Panther, Far From Home, Winter Soldier, Homecoming. So the Avengers, so this is what just fell out of my top 10. Ragnarok definitely fell quite a bit. But now I'm curious, so let's pull up, now that we're pushing an hour on this video, let's pull up that original ranking and see where it stacks up. Okay, obviously it doesn't look great, kind of a mess going on here, but on the left is the list that we just did, and then on the right is the original MC ranking. So let's see where everything laid out. Okay, so obviously No Way Home stayed up top on both, and then Infinity War. On this re-ranking, I made the call. I moved Guardians Volume 2 up, which I originally had Guardians 3, so I pretty much slid Guardians 3 back, and then I moved Guardians 2 up 2 spots. So that's interesting. And then it looks like I flip-flopped Guardians 3 and Black Panther. Far From Home stayed at 8. That's interesting. Winter Soldier, this is what I want to see. So Winter Soldier is now number... I should have ranked it like I do here. It's number 9. Jumped up from number 19. It jumped up 10 spots. That's fun. And it slid Homecoming down a slot. I put Thunderbolts as a top 10, and then just on this, just barely, I re-ranked it and it fell down 3 slots. So that's interesting. Deadpool and Wolverine fell down like 4 or 3 slots as well. Yeah, Ragnarok, it looks like it fell down a couple slots. Like pretty much everything here, Thunderbolts, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Ragnarok. It's interesting that I had those 3 all in the exact same order. I just kind of slid them all down together, so I'm like pretty definitive like where I put those 3. But Wakanda Forever, I had 13th originally. That fell down to, what is that, 20th? So that took a little bit of a fall. Fantastic Four. I guess I never ranked Fantastic Four there's only 36 up here. So it looks like I probably never ranked Fantastic Four because I already knew I was going to do this re-ranking. So I just never even put it in there. That's interesting. So that's why everything kind of, it feels like they all slid a little bit because I had to squeeze Fantastic Four in there somewhere. The original Avengers jumped up from 15 to 11 on my re-rank. That's cool. That makes sense. Shang-Chi fell from 14 to, what is that, 23. Civil War. Oh no, this isn't 23. It's 18. Civil War ended up actually staying at the exact same spot. That's number 16 on both sides. Iron Man stayed 17 on both sides. That's interesting. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness slipped a little bit. Shang-Chi, dropped its ranking, but then moved it up higher in my... Oh, no. Yeah, no, Shang-Chi dropped. Because this is 14 here, this will be 18 here. Ant-Man, I moved up a whole lot more. I had it all the way at 20. I moved that up on this re-ranking. It was one of those, like, it just kind of got hot. Like, as I was putting things in there, I was like, this is going up. So yeah, Wakanda Forever had it 13, and then now it's number 20, so yeah, that dropped. Captain Marvel, so I put it 22 here, I had it at 25. I had the Eternals above it. Okay, so here we go. This is where, the bottom of the list this is where it's going to get kind of interesting for a couple of these films. I'm curious, so Ultron, I ended up putting at 25. Where do I have Ultron here? I had Ultron at 32, so Ultron jumped. Eternals, I had all the way up at 24. I guess I've got it at 28 now. Love and Thunder went from number 23 down to 35. In hindsight, because I don't remember liking the movie the first time, so like, why did I like it? Why did I have it so highly ranked? That's so weird. Black Widow kind of feels around the same spot. Quantumania was 27, dropped to 36. The Incredible Hulk, here's the one I was interested in. It was second to last. It moved up to now bottom 5, fifth to last. Brave New World. Iron Man 2 moved up as well. I didn't like that originally. On the first watch, I think I gave it 1.5 originally. The Marvels kind of stayed in the same spot. And then from here on, everything kind of... Oh, it looks like I like Thor more than I originally did. I had the first Avenger a lot higher than I remember. Where did I have... Okay, so I was curious how I ranked this. I did have Multiverse of Madness above the original Doctor Strange, and so I did that same thing here as well. What other... Is there anything else that's interesting? Quantumania, or excuse me, Ant-Man and the Wasp, the second one, I had that pretty low. I think on my original rewatch, or my original watch, I had it low because it kind of made me mad that I was so confused and I didn't because I didn't know, because I hadn't seen everything else. I hadn't seen Civil War, so there was so much that was like missing that I remember kind of just being mad when I watched it the first time, even though I still gave it a good score. Oh my gosh, on my original watch, I put Quantumania ahead of... That's bad. Yeah, this original ranking is not accurate at all. I mean, it's, for the most part, things stayed pretty similar, I would say. The biggest jump definitely has to be Winter Soldier jumping up 10, and then the biggest fall is Love and Thunder dropping from 23 down to, what did I say, 34? No, 35. So, drop dropping by 12 there. So that was the biggest faller and the biggest jump. So yeah, I'm going to put a list, or the link to both of these lists in the description if you want to check those out, and then just follow me on Letterboxd while you're over there. This is a lot of fun. I'm glad that I did this video. I didn't expect this to be pushing an hour long, but just once you get going and there's 37 films to talk about, obviously it's gonna roll a little bit. I will say that there is a good chance, this isn't confirmed yet, but it's a good chance that this isn't my last MCU video that's going to be coming up on the channel in the next little bit here. We'll see when I get around to it, but I do have an idea for another MCU video, or 5 or 6 that I want to do on the channel. So if you'd like this video, if you're interested in seeing that, I'm sure we're gonna find a way that I'm gonna get some more MCU content on the channel, even though it isn't, I'm not the biggest comic book fan and biggest MCU fan. It's a fun universe. When you have 37 films to talk about, and it's such a widely seen universe, that there are so many other people that you can talk to about the MCU, and you're going to get so many just kind of varying opinions. Again, like my Far From Home being all the way at 8 on both of my lists, like I know that's not going to be the case for a lot of people. So there is a good chance that there's going to be more MCU videos coming to the channel very soon, hopefully. So yeah, if you'd like this video, I would appreciate giving it a like, and if you'd like to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those future MCU videos, or just any other videos in any of the other series that I have going on my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.